The period from 1820 to 1860 marked the beginning of an era where strange and sadistic tortures became a defining feature of the lives of enslaved Africans in the United States. Welcome to The Glorious Historian, where the silenced voices of enslaved Africans resound through time. From brutal chains to unbroken spirits, we unveil their struggles, resilience, and legacy. Subscribe now, share your thoughts below, and journey deeper into their truth. Let their voices guide your heart. Listen on. A time when the plantation system in the Deep South, spanning states like Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, transformed into a theater of calculated cruelty aimed at breaking the human spirit with unrelenting force and a methodical precision that left no room for mercy. The cotton economy's explosive growth during this period intensified the demand for labor, prompting white plantation owners, adorned in fine wool suits that signified their wealth, authority, and social standing, to devise increasingly bizarre methods of punishment to maintain control over a resistant population, their decisions driven by profit rather than compassion. A system that turned human suffering into a commodity traded with cold efficiency and a chilling disregard for the lives it destroyed. Black men, women, and children, clad in tattered cotton shirts and dresses that offered little protection from the elements, the harsh sun, or the torment to come, faced an array of strange devices, such as the thumbscrew, the Spanish collar, and the iron bit, each designed to inflict pain, enforce obedience, and leave permanent marks on their bodies, their scarred flesh a testament to a regime that saw them as less than human, mere tools in a vast economic machine. Overseers dressed in gray wool coats that insulated them from the same suffering they inflicted became the executors of these tortures, wielding whips, metal instruments, and their own authority with a chilling detachment, their role critical in upholding the plantation's productivity, their indifference a mirror to the era's brutality and a reflection of the systemic dehumanization that define their actions. The onset of these strange tortures was closely tied to the domestic slave trade, which forcibly relocated thousands from the Upper South to the harsher conditions of the Deep South, bringing new captives into a world where unfamiliarity with the land, language, and customs made them prime targets for such punishments. A reality meticulously documented in the Transatlantic Slave Trade Database as a strategic measure to instill fear, submission, and a sense of hopelessness among the newly arrived. Historical accounts from Barracoon by Zora Neale Hurston and ex-posts by @African Archives reveal the psychological depth of these tortures, with public humiliations, solitary confinements, and the constant threat of violence added to physical pain. Yet the enslaved found strength in their resilience, forming community bonds, sharing whispered stories of survival that kept their spirits alive, and passing down oral traditions that preserved their identity. The introduction of stricter slave codes during this period legalized and encouraged such cruelty, allowing overseers to experiment with devices like the sweatbox and the picket, each innovation a testament to the inventive sadism of the system, while white traders in black wool coats profited from the sale of these tortured souls, their wealth growing with each transaction and their moral compass seemingly absent. The enslaved, despite the torment, clung to their cultural practices, singing spirituals under the cover of night, passing down oral histories, or carving secret symbols into wood, transforming their pain into a quiet defiance, a legacy of endurance that began to take root amidst the strange tortures designed to erase their identity and will, a resistance that would echo through generations and inspire future movements for freedom. Their unyielding spirit, a beacon in the darkness of their captivity. Among the strange tortures endured by enslaved Africans from 1820 to 1860, the thumbscrew and iron bit emerged as particularly insidious devices, crafted with meticulous care to inflict excruciating pain, enforce silence, and leave lasting physical and emotional scars that served as a constant reminder of their subjugation. Black men and women, dressed in tattered cotton clothing that hung loosely over their battered bodies, exposed to the elements and the harsh realities of their labor, were subjected to the thumbscrew, a small metal contraption that crushed fingers and thumbs with a simple turn of a screw, a punishment administered by white overseers in gray wool coats who tightened it with deliberate force to extract confessions, punish minor infractions such as dropping a tool or speaking out of turn, or simply to assert their dominance, the resulting deformities rendering hands nearly useless for the grueling field work that defined their days and nights. The iron bit, a barbaric metal gag forced into the mouth and secured behind the head with chains that bit into the skin, was employed with ruthless efficiency to silence those accused of rebellion, insolence, or even the faintest hint of resistance, its sharp edges cutting into tongues, lips, and gums, transforming speech into a painful privilege and turning every attempt at communication into a struggle against suffocation, agony, and the loss of identity. White plantation owners, clad in fine wool suits that symbolized their untouchable status and insulated them from the suffering they sanctioned, approved these tortures as essential tools for maintaining order, their wealth dependent on the productivity that fear and pain ensured, a system where the sound of crushed bones, muffled cries, and the clank of metal became a routine backdrop to their profitable enterprise, a symphony of cruelty that echoed across the plantations. Overseers applied these devices with a methodical cruelty, often leaving the enslaved bound for hours, days, or even longer, their resilience evident in the way they endured without breaking, their eyes meeting in silent solidarity, their lips moving in whispered prayers passed in secret despite the bit's restraint, a testament to their inner strength. Historical records from X-Posts by @African Archives detail the horrific use of the thumbscrew on children as young as 10, their small hands crushed to set an example for others and instill terror in the youngest members of the community, a practice that underscored the depth of cruelty inflicted upon the most vulnerable. While Barracoon recounts the iron bit's frequent use on women accused of insolence, their voices suppressed, yet their spirits undeterred, a quiet rebellion that persisted. The enslaved responded with a quiet strength, using their silence to plot resistance, preserve their cultural songs, or maintain a sense of self, transforming the pain into a form of passive rebellion, a testament to their unyielding will amidst the strange tortures that sought to silence them forever. Their endurance a silent cry against the dehumanization imposed upon them by those who held power and wielded it with unrelenting force. The Spanish collar and branding ranked among the strange tortures endured by enslaved Africans from 1820 to 1860. devices that marked both body and soul with a permanence designed to reinforce their status as property, instill a lifelong reminder of their bondage, and serve as a public declaration of their owner's authority over their lives. Black individuals, clad in tattered cotton shirts and dresses that draped over skin scarred by labor, punishment, and the relentless passage of time, were fitted with the Spanish collar, a heavy iron ring adorned with inward-facing spikes that dug into necks and shoulders with every movement, forcing them to maintain an upright posture under constant pain or risk further injury, a torment meticulously applied by white overseers in gray wool coats to punish runaways, those deemed defiant, or anyone suspected of plotting escape. Branding, the searing application of a red-hot iron to the flesh, often in the face, chest, back, or even the inner thigh, left permanent scars that served as a visible mark of ownership, a practice overseen by white plantation owners in fine wool suits who viewed it as a necessary branding of their human chattel, their wealth tied to the visibility of such cruelty that deterred escape, asserted dominance, and turned individuals into identifiable assets in a brutal market. The collar's oppressive weight caused chronic pain, infections that spread through unhealed wounds, difficulty sleeping due to its constant pressure, and a sense of confinement that extended beyond the physical, while branding's burns led to festering wounds that sometimes required amputation or resulted in lifelong disability. Yet Black resilience shone through as they cared for each other's injuries with herbs gathered in secret, applied with cloth scraps torn from their own garments, or shared knowledge of healing practices passed down from their ancestors, their strength a quiet rebellion against the physical and psychological scars. Historical narratives from the Transatlantic Slave Trade Database note the use of branding to differentiate slaves from various plantations, a practice that turned human beings into livestock with identifiable marks, a system of cataloging that dehumanized with every scar, while Barracoon recounts the deep shame of a branded cheek or forehead, the public nature of the mark a source of humiliation. Yet the enslaved transformed these marks into symbols of survival, sharing stories of those who escaped despite them, and weaving tales of resilience into their communal fabric to preserve their dignity. Overseers wielded these tortures with a chilling regularity, their indifference a reflection of the system's brutality and a testament to their role as enforcers. But the enslaved persisted, their community bonds a source of solace, support, and strength, a testament to their endurance against the strange tortures that sought to define them solely by the pain inflicted upon them. Their spirit a flicker of hope amidst the darkness of their captivity, and a legacy of resistance that endured. The sweatbox and picket stood out as strange tortures endured by enslaved Africans from 1820 to 1860. Combining confinement and physical agony into a dual assault on the body and will, designed to break the spirit of those who dared to resist the plantation's iron rule and enforce a compliance born of desperation. Black men and women, dressed in tattered cotton clothing that became soaked with their own sweat, tears, and the dirt of the fields, were forced into the sweatbox, a cramped wooden crate so small it barely accommodated a body, where the stifling heat, lack of air, and suffocating darkness caused dehydration, delirium, and sometimes death. a punishment meted out by white overseers in gray wool coats to discipline those caught attempting escape, perceived as lazy, or simply to serve as a warning to others, their confinement a test of endurance under the relentless southern sun. The picket, a sharpened wooden stake driven deep into the ground, required the enslaved to stand barefoot for hours with the point piercing the soles, leading to infections that spread through unwashed feet, swollen limbs that hindered movement, and permanent damage that marked them for life. A torment overseen by white plantation owners in fine wool suits who saw it as a deterrent to rebellion. Their wealth built on the suffering that such devices enforced, with ruthless consistency and an eye toward maximum control. The sweatbox's confines often resulted in fainting spells, heat stroke that left survivors weakened for weeks, or death from the cumulative effects of confinement, while the picket's pain left lasting injuries that hindered future labor, forced reliance on others for mobility, and served as a constant reminder of their vulnerability. Yet Black resilience emerged as they supported each other post-torture, offering sips of water from hidden sources, gentle massages to ease the pain, words of encouragement whispered in the night, or shared memories of better times, their strength a quiet defiance against the physical and mental strain. Historical accounts from Barracoon describe the sweatbox's use on young men, their cries unheard within the suffocating darkness, their bodies pushed to the brink, while ex-posts by African archives highlight the picket's role in breaking spirits, with many collapsing under the strain only to rise again. Yet the enslaved found ways to cope, using humor to lighten the mood, singing softly to reclaim their humanity, or plotting resistance in the shadows, a testament to their unyielding spirit amidst the strange tortures designed to crush them. Their endurance a silent protest against the cruelty that sought to erase their will and replace it with submission. The cat o' nine tails and its various flocking variations were among the strange tortures endured by enslaved Africans from 1820 to 1860. A whip with multiple knotted tails crafted to maximize pain, leave lasting marks on the body, and serve as a visible testament to the plantation's authority over every aspect of their lives. Black individuals dressed in tattered cotton dresses and shirts that offered no shield against the lash, no protection from the elements, and no barrier to the brutality they faced, were flogged with the cat o' nine tails, its 9 leather strands tearing into flesh with each strike, a punishment administered by white overseers in gray wool coats who often varied the technique by adding salt, vinegar, or even hot pepper to the wounds to intensify the suffering, prolong the healing process, and enforce submission with unrelenting severity that left no room for mercy. White plantation owners, clad in fine wool suits that insulated them from the same pain and shielded them from the moral consequences of their actions, approved these floggings as a cornerstone of control, their wealth dependent on the fear instilled in every lash, a system where the sound of ripping skin, the smell of blood, and the cries of the afflicted became a routine part of the workday. Yet Black resilience shone as they endured, their scars becoming badges of survival shared in secret gatherings, a symbol of their unyielding spirit. Historical records from the Transatlantic Slave Trade Database note floggings for minor offenses, such as failing to meet quotas, speaking without permission, or showing signs of fatigue. while Barracoon recounts the story of a woman flogged for singing a song of her homeland, her voice silenced but her spirit unbroken, her melody a memory that lingered, a testament to their strength against the strange tortures that sought to dominate them. The enslaved responded with a quiet dignity, caring for each other's wounds with whatever remedies they could muster. Herbs gathered in secret, mud poultices made from the earth, or torn cloth soaked in water, transforming their pain into a shared bond, their endurance a form of resistance that whispered of hope amidst the brutality, a legacy of survival that persisted despite the relentless application of the cat o' nine tails and its cruel variations. A legacy that grew stronger with each act of mutual support and each story told under the cover of darkness. The stocks and public humiliation ranked among the strange tortures endured by enslaved Africans from 1820 to 1860. A combination of physical confinement and social degradation designed to isolate, break the spirit, and enforce a compliance born of shame with calculated cruelty that spared no one. Black men and women, clad in tattered cotton clothing that offered little comfort against the weather, the ground, or the stares of others, were locked into wooden stocks that confined their hands and feet, leaving them exposed to the scorching sun, driving rain, biting cold, and the mockery of overseers, fellow slaves coerced into participation, and occasional visitors who came to gawk, a punishment overseen by white overseers in gray wool coats who encouraged taunts, jeers, and laughter to deepen the shame and erode any sense of self-worth. White plantation owners, dressed in fine wool suits that signified their untouchable status, used this public spectacle as a tool to maintain order, their wealth tied to the subjugation it reinforced, staging these events near the fields or quarters to maximize visibility, instill a pervasive sense of dread, and remind all of the consequences of defiance, a lesson etched in every painful hour spent in the stocks. The stocks caused physical pain, cramped muscles that seized with every movement, swollen joints that ached for days, and sores from prolonged immobility that festered without care. While the humiliation eroded mental fortitude, planted seeds of despair, and tested the limits of human dignity, yet Black resilience emerged as they endured the shame, their community offering silent support through exchanged glances, whispered prayers offered in the night, small acts of kindness like sharing a sip of water or a hand held in secret. Their strength a quiet defiance against the degradation. Historical narratives from Barracoon describe individuals left in stocks for days, their bodies weakening, but their resolve hardening with each passing hour, while ex-posts by South African archives note children subjected to this torment for minor infractions like spilling water, their innocence a target for the system's cruelty, yet they found solace in each other. The enslaved transformed their suffering into a form of resistance, using the time in stocks to plan escapes, memorize songs of freedom that carried hope, or strengthen their bonds with whispered plans, their endurance a testament to their unyielding spirit against the strange tortures aimed at their dignity. A spirit that refused to be wholly diminished by the public gaze of their oppressors or the weight of the wooden frame that held them. The water cure and dousing were strange tortures endured by enslaved Africans from 1820 to 1860, employing water as a weapon to inflict pain, fear, and physical breakdown with ruthless intent that turned a basic necessity into a tool of torment. Black individuals, dressed in tattered cotton shirts that clung to their skin when wet, weighed them down with every drop and offered no warmth, faced the water cure, a brutal method where they were forcibly submerged in barrels of icy water or had it poured into their nostrils until choking and terror set in, administered by white overseers in gray wool coats who used it to punish defiance, extract confessions, or simply to assert their power. The sensation of drowning a constant threat that lingered long after the ordeal ended. Dousing, particularly with cold water during winter months when the air itself bit at exposed skin, left them shivering, vulnerable to hypothermia, and weakened by the chill, a torment overseen by white plantation owners in fine wool suits who saw it as a cost-effective means of discipline, their wealth built on the suffering that such methods enforced without mercy or regard for human life. The water cure often resulted in lung infections that plagued them for weeks, permanent respiratory damage that shortened their lives, or a lingering fear of water itself, while dousing led to frostbite that blackened fingers and toes, pneumonia that claimed the frail, and a constant shiver that never fully faded. Yet black resilience shone as they survived, huddling together for warmth in the night, sharing body heat to fend off the cold, or using makeshift coverings like leaves or rags to dry off. Their strength a quiet defiance against the environmental and physical assault. Historical accounts from Barracoon detailed the water cure's use on men accused of planning rebellions, their gasps for air a testament to their struggle against the liquid prison, while exiposts by at African archives note women and children doused as punishment for slow work, their cries ignored by those who held the buckets. Yet they found ways to cope. The enslaved responded with ingenuity, collecting rainwater in secret to mitigate thirst, using chants to bolster morale and keep their spirits alive, or teaching each other survival tricks, their endurance a powerful protest against the strange tortures designed to drown their will, a protest that echoed in their quiet determination to persevere despite the water's icy grip and the overseer's unyielding hand. The iron mask and sensory deprivation were strange tortures endured by enslaved Africans from 1820 to 1860, isolating them through metal confinement and silence to shatter their mental resilience with unrelenting precision and a deliberate intent to erase their sense of self. Black individuals, clad in tattered cotton dresses that offered no comfort against the metal's cold embrace, no cushion for the sores it caused, and no shield from the despair it induced, were forced to wear iron masks that covered their faces, restricting breath to shallow gasps, sight to a dim blur, and sound to a muffled hum. A punishment applied by white overseers in gray wool coats to punish runaways, those deemed insolent, or anyone suspected of harboring rebellious thoughts. The mask's weight causing headaches that throbbed with every step, and the lack of air inducing panic that tested their sanity. Sensory deprivation, often achieved through solitary confinement in dark, soundproof sheds where even the wind's whisper was absent, deprived them of human contact, the comfort of community, and the solace of familiar voices. A torment sanctioned by white plantation owners in fine wool suits who used it to break resistance, their wealth tied to the obedience it enforced and the silence it imposed. The iron mask led to infections around the eyes and mouth that spread without treatment, sores that wept with every movement, and a sense of suffocation that lingered, while isolation caused hallucinations that blurred reality, despair that weighed on their souls, and a loneliness that threatened to consume them. Yet Black resilience persisted as they found inner strength, reciting memorized prayers to anchor their minds, imagining the landscapes of their homelands to keep hope alive, or counting the seconds to maintain a sense of time, their spirit a quiet rebellion against the sensory void. Historical narratives from Barracoon recount the use of iron masks on women to silence their songs, their melodies stifled, but their memories intact, while ex-post by at African archives highlight children left in isolation, their cries unheard in the darkness. Yet, the enslaved transform this torment into a space for reflection, planning resistance with silent gestures, or preserving cultural memory through mental recitation, a testament to their unyielding will against the strange tortures aimed at their senses, a will that refused to be extinguished by the darkness imposed upon them or the iron that bound their faces. The wheel and limb stretching were strange tortures endured by enslaved Africans from 1820 to 1860, devices that twisted and extended bodies beyond natural limits to punish, disable, and enforce a submission born of physical ruin, with cruel intent that spared no part of their anatomy. Black men, dressed in tattered cotton shirts that tore under the strain of their bonds, offered no protection from the wood's rough edges, and hung in tatters after the ordeal, were bound to large wooden wheels and stretched until joints dislocated with a sickening pop, bones cracked under the pressure, or muscles tore with every turn, a punishment administered by white overseers in gray wool coats to discipline those accused of rebellion, the wheel's rotation adding to the agony with each revolution and turning their bodies into a canvas of pain. Limbs stretching on racks where arms and legs were pulled apart with ropes and pulleys caused severe pain that radiated through every nerve, permanent damage that left them limping or unable to lift, and a sense of helplessness that lingered, a torment overseen by white plantation owners in fine wool suits who saw it as a deterrent to further resistance. Their wealth built on the crippled labor force it created and the fear it instilled. The wheel often resulted in paralysis that ended their ability to work, death from internal injuries that went untreated, or a lifetime of chronic pain that marked their every step. While the rack left many unable to walk without aid, their limbs twisted into unnatural shapes, and their spirits tested by the constant ache. Yet Black resilience emerged as they supported each other, offering slings crafted from branches, crutches fashioned from fallen wood, or gentle hands to guide their steps, their strength a quiet defiance against the physical breakdown. Historical records from the Transatlantic Slave Trade Database note the wheel's use on strong men to break their spirit. Their strength turned against them, while Barracoon describes a survivor of the rack, his limbs twisted but his resolve intact, his story a beacon for others, a testament to their endurance. The enslaved responded with communal care, sharing stories of survival to inspire hope, teaching each other to adapt to their injuries, or singing songs of resilience to lift their hearts, their resistance a powerful force against the strange tortures that sought to cripple them, a force that grew with each act of mutual support and each moment of shared courage. The psychological torment of mock auctions was a strange torture endured by enslaved Africans from 1820 to 1860. A cruel game of fear designed to manipulate, break their mental fortitude, and enforce a compliance born of terror with calculated deception that played on their deepest fears. Black families, clad in tattered cotton clothing that marked their status, offered no protection from the emotional wounds and bore the stains of their labor, were subjected to fake sales where white overseers in gray wool coats staged auctions, calling out bids with mock seriousness, separating loved ones only to reunite them later, the terror real. Despite the ruse, a punishment to instill dread, compliance, and a sense of powerlessness that lingered long after the event ended. White plantation owners in fine wool suits used these mock auctions to maintain control, their wealth tied to the psychological subjugation it reinforced, staging them near the quarters to maximize the emotional impact, draw crowds of onlookers, and remind all of the fragility of their bonds. Yet black resilience shone as they comforted each other, whispering reassurances to calm trembling hearts, holding hands to share strength, or singing softly to drown out the auctioneer's voice, their strength a quiet defiance. Historical narratives from Barracoon recount a mother's anguish during a mock sale. Her child returned, but her trust shattered, her tears a silent protest, while ex-posts by Yista African Archives note, children traumatized by these events, their innocence a target for the system's cruelty, their sobs echoing in the night, yet they found solace in each other. The enslaved transformed this torment into a space for bonding, using the fear to strengthen family ties with promises of reunion, planning real escapes with coded messages, or teaching resilience to the young, their endurance a testament to their unyielding spirit against the strange tortures of the mind, a spirit that refused to be wholly broken by the psychological warfare waged against them, a spirit that grew with each act of love and each plan for freedom. The legacy of enduring strange tortures from 1820 to 1860 stands as a profound testament to the resilience of enslaved Africans, their survival against unimaginable horrors shaping a narrative of strength that inspired future generations, left an indelible mark on the fabric of history, and served as a foundation for the fight for justice that followed. Black men and women, clad in tattered cotton clothing marked by scars and memories of torment, offered no shield from the past, but carried the weight of their endurance, overcame the thumbscrew, iron bit, Spanish collar, branding, sweatbox, picket, cat o' nine tails, stocks, water cure, iron mask, wheel, and mock auctions, their spirit unyielding despite the relentless cruelty, their endurance a foundation for resistance that fueled the abolitionist movement with stories of their suffering and strength. They preserved a flicker of hope amidst the despair, sharing stories of survival around flickering fires that warmed their hands, planning escapes in whispered conversations that carried their dreams, and teaching their children songs of freedom that echoed in the night, their strength inspiring acts of defiance, such as work slowdowns to disrupt production, the hiding of tools to hinder progress, or the secret education of the young that grew into a collective resolve, while white overseers in gray wool coats and owners in fine wool suits faded into obscurity with the end of the Civil War, their power ended by the tide of history and the weight of their own crimes. Historical accounts from the Transatlantic Slave Trade Database and Barracoon document their resilience, noting how their suffering galvanized change. Their stories a powerful call for justice that echoed in the hearts of abolitionists who penned pamphlets, lawmakers who drafted laws, and the enslaved themselves who risked all for freedom, a call that grew louder with each act of endurance and each tale told. Descendants honor this legacy, rebuilding their heritage through the reclamation of family histories lost to sale, cultural traditions suppressed by violence, and public memorials that stand as testaments to their strength, a narrative of survival etched in time that continues to inspire and remind us of the unyielding power of the human spirit to prevail against the strange tortures that sought to erase their existence, a triumph that endures as a beacon of hope for all who face oppression, a light that shines through the darkness of their past.